Just last year, Square Enix announced that there is a lot more Final Fantasy VII coming than just the Final Fantasy VII Remake series. There would also be brand new mobile games in the form of Ever Crisis and The First Soldier. And when The First Soldier was first announced, it did have a ton of mixed reception. Many people asking, why are they doing a Final Fantasy Battle Royale? Some even felt like the game was a cash-in. Though when the game did release, it did have its small fan base. It was a pretty fun Final Fantasy VII themed Battle Royale. The key word there being was. As today, Square Enix announced that they are shutting down services for Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier. With the game having been released November of last year, that means that the game didn't make it a full year of service before this announcement. There's a lot to unpack here, so you're gonna want to hit that subscribe button where we unpack everything Final Fantasy all the time. And the first major thing to unpack is their end of service notice. With them saying, quote, "It is with a heavy heart that we are announcing the end of service for Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier. We'll be ending service at 7 UTC on January 11th, 2023. Despite all our efforts to bring you regular updates with fresh and exciting content, we haven't been able to deliver the experience we were hoping to, and that you all deserve, and so we have made the extremely tough decision to end service for Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier. We would like to thank you all for supporting us over the past year. Although there is little less than 3 months until service ends, we will continue to make updates during this time, so we hope that you will continue to enjoy Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier until the very end. Personally, I feel for the team, and I hope that they're able to be relocated to other projects. That being said, it is very hard for me not to look at Square Enix and blame them for the failure of this game. The fans were overwhelmingly clear with what they wanted. While there were several people who were open-minded to playing this game, Square Enix made it incredibly difficult for them to do, locking the game to mobile only. Listen, I know there are plenty of people who play Fortnite on their phone, but there are also plenty of people who don't. That being most adults who can play it on a Switch or a home console or PC. I barely want to play a shooter on a console where I have to use a controller to aim, much less use a mobile phone to do so. It's been shown time and time again that content creators really do help influence sales and keep game communities alive in the long term. That being said, making content for this game as a content creator was an absolute nightmare. Me and many of my peers wanted to make content for this game. We wanted to try streaming it, and because this game was locked to phones, it means that first we had to take our mobile phone or tablet, then we had to find a piece of software that would allow us to cast our phone screen to our computer without a tremendous amount of lag, or at least enough that would allow us to play a competitive shooter without being killed mercilessly. And there aren't too many options for that. And when there is an option, you can guarantee that it's on some sort of paid subscription service. So you'd have to do that, or you'd have to look at your phone the whole time. But if you're holding your phone the whole time, you can't really interact with chat. Then, on top of which, you would then have to sync a Bluetooth controller to your phone. Otherwise, again, you'd be stuck the whole stream looking down at your phone trying to play, rather than just immersing yourself in a game like normal. But even then, the game didn't have full controller support, meaning at certain points you'd have to use touch controls to operate the game. I am positive from this description you can see how much of an absolute pain this is. But I know what many of you were thinking. Why didn't you just use an Android emulator like BlueStacks in order to get the game running? Oh my friend, we thought of that. However, Square Enix did everything humanly possible to stop the game from running on emulator. Every time there was a major breakthrough and people were able to get the game working, they immediately patched it out so that the emulators would fail to load the game, meaning that there was basically no option available to play this on PC. It was thought this was happening to keep the game competitively fair, but here is the issue. If nobody is playing the game because it's not on their platform of choice, then you don't need to worry about who's competitively at an advantage or disadvantage, because there is nobody. It's just funny to think that this game has launched and shut down before Ever Crisis's beta has even launched. A series of terrible decisions is definitely what put this game in the gutter. But that being said, it's probably not the only thing. Final Fantasy fans playing a battle royale, I can guarantee you that most Final Fantasy fans, like hardcore FF fans, a lot of them I know don't even play any shooters at all. It seems like the absolute absolute wrong demographic. It's kinda hard to conclude anything but the fact that they wanted to just make a battle royale, but they didn't really have a good way to sell it. So they decided to attach Final Fantasy VII to it, because they figured that Final Fantasy VII is a big enough brand name to make anything sell. But considering how many assets this game reused, I don't think they lost too much money. But the concern for me at this point is how much damage is being done to the brand. This, Babylon's Fall, Chocobo GP, Balan Wonderland, anyone? And numerous other Square Enix games that have received mixed reviews as of late. It really begs the question of how many L's can they continue to take without it at some point impacting the brand. And while I am positive that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Final Fantasy XVI will be well received, it just seems like there's a lot of titles and things in between that just simply aren't working for them. Shout out to Patron Chaotic and the rest of the Ultima community.